I'm JD. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe. Please hit like. And what do I have here today? I've got a watch oiler and I've got some watch oil. That red stuff is watch oil. So what I want to do today is just show you and using a microscope, show you the difference between getting a large amount of oil on the end of your oiler and getting a small amount of oil on the end of your oiler and how that's done. So here's my oiler with a clean tip. I'm going to plunge this into the oil, and the first thing I'm going to do is pull it out slowly. Now you'll see when I pull it out slowly there is oil on the oiler. I can see if I can rotate that. It's pulled out slowly. I just submerged it again. It's pretty close. And you can see the amount of oil on the oiler. If I want less oil, I'll pull it out even slower. And the oil will tend to adhere to itself as it's being pulled out. There's the amount of oil I get from that. Now if I want more oil, all I do is pull it out quickly. So let me just see if I can do that without... And I just pull that out quickly. Look at the amount of oil on that oiler. And the oil will gather on the largest surface, which is the tip of that oiler. So if I pull it out quickly, I almost get a ball of oil on the end, like that. And if I pull it out slowly, there's a lot less oil on the end of the oiler. So basically that's it. And you get a feel for how much oil you need and how fast you need to pull that out to get more oil. And now let's just touch some jewels and see what happens here. This is a vintage pocket watch, and this is the third jewel on the vintage pocket watch. The first one is the mainspring, the second one is the center, and the third one is the intermediate before you get to the fourth one, which holds the second hand. So this is the third jewel. So you can see that it is dry. So I'm going to try to put some oil on this. So the first thing I'm going to do is take the oiler out quickly, which will leave me with a pretty big ball of oil. And I'm going to put that on there, and let's see what happens to this this jewel. There. So now you can see that it filled the whole thing up, and too much. So it filled it up so much that it's off on the side. So some of that will slip through onto the pivot, but it'll likely drain down through that pivot and drag the rest of that oil down through to where the gear is, or the pinion, depending on the actual jewel you're doing. So it will do that, and it's like when you funnel water out of a can and you put the hose in and you go like that, you suck the water, and then it starts coming out, and it just keeps taking that water out of that can. So the water adheres to itself and pulls it down. This does the same thing, and the risk here is that when you actually turn this watch sideways, there's so much oil in here that it will spill out of the side of this of the jewel setting and on the watch face. So let's clean this up a bit and see if you put a little bit of oil in there and what that looks like. So in this case, I pulled the oiler out really slowly, and I'm going to put some oil in here and attempt to not screw this up, but put some oil in here. I'm actually looking at the camera to do this. And there. Now you see how that just filled up the small pot on the bottom of the jewel, the indent in the center rather of the jewel. And it's simply, that will stay in that little tiny pot that you're looking at, or the bowl that you're looking at. And if I put the watch sideways now, that will tend to stay on the largest surface, which is the bowl and the pivot. So that's what you want to do. That's the amount of oil you want to put in there. If I do, again, pull it out quickly, I get a very large clump of oil on the end, right, as you can see. And if I pull it out slowly, do that again, I get a smaller amount of oil. There's still some left on the actual arm of the oiler, but that is the result you want. So as you're oiling your watches, too much oil is disastrous. Too much oil will end up having the oil pull itself out of the location, because the oil again has a coefficient of friction that causes it to slide into place, but it has another, what's it called? Viscosity? I'm not sure. I don't want to be too scientific because I'm an electrical engineer, not a chemical engineer. I just play one on TV. But it tends to stick to itself. So the molecules will stick to themselves and pull all of the oil out of where that hole is. So there's the right amount of oil, and you want to fill that small cup on the bottom with the oil and pull the oiler out slowly to get a small amount of oil. Now let's get to the center wheel and try to do the exact same thing. So in this case there is no setting, and so when I put the oil in here I'm hoping to fill that very small cup and not to the top so it doesn't drain out. So again I'll put the oiler in slowly and pull some oil up, and let's see what that looks like. That's what the oil looks like there. Let me lower that and see if I can get the effect here I want. And that is good enough. And when this wheel turns, that'll spread the oil around the shaft, and that'll stay where the most mass is, which is where the jewel is. It's not a jewel setting, it's not a jewel, so it's a non-jeweled watch, but it'll stay where the hole is and the pivot coming out. So that's the amount of oil you want to put in there. If again you put too much oil in there, I'll do this again by pulling the oiler out fast and coming over to the hole here and laying it down. That oil will drain through the hole and down the shaft, likely. You'll see a bit of it draining down the shaft, which will pull other oil out of there. But if you hold that movement sideways, the oil will drain onto the actual movement, so which eventually will dry out that hole. So you don't want to do that. So the first oiling I did, I pulled the oiler out slowly, got a little bit of oil on it, placed it down, and that oil will go into that hole and around that shaft and stay there. So that's my video on oiling. Let me know if you've got any comments or what you think about that. How to oil is fundamentally the larger the shaft, the bigger the friction, the thicker the oil. When you get to the motion works, you're setting the stem and all that. It's more of a grease that you're putting on there than an oil, and that too will stay in place, and you can overdo that as well, but it likely won't migrate to other parts of your watch. So anyway, I'm JD. Thanks for watching this quick little video on oiling. I hope you enjoyed it. And my last comment is, oil's well that ends well.